What is up, everybody? Welcome to Boogeyman Radio. I'm David.
I'm Charlie.
We've got a great show tonight.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so pumped for this. Been waiting for it.
Tonight we're going to be talking about shadow people. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
You know why you're here.
Yes. Murder.
Murder, you say? Yes. We have a spectacular guest on. Last week we were talking about H.H. Holmes, the world's, probably the America's, at least America's, I don't want to call him greatest, but like most notorious serial killer. Infamous is a good word. Well, tonight we're following that up by bringing you special guest Jeff Mudgett, who is a great-great-grandson of H.H. Holmes. Jeff has written a book called Bloodstains, chronicling his discovery of, him being related to H.H. Holmes and how he's dealt with that, plus going into some other things, as well as being on, or having a show on history called The American Ripper, in which they were on a quest to link Jack the Ripper and H.H. Holmes together. And I will say they did a marvelous job.
It is so good. Like, I was I was pretty skeptical, I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't know, like, that's kind of weird. But then going through and watching the show, and they pointed out several awesome key points. Oh man, how could you not? They don't disprove it. Like, so yeah, I'm so excited, and I'm sure he'll talk about some of that stuff tonight. And
there's some things I really want to talk, like certain pieces of evidence that I've talked to you about that floored me, that I want to see what he has to say about those in depth, because, like, you know how TV is, they edit everything to
100%.
minimize the time restraint.
They have to do it for Hollywood and leave stuff out, and then there's some creative differences of what can actually get out. May change history, but whatever.
Speaking of which, a big shout out to our friend Steve Hayes. He and his crew just got a deal with Face It, or I don't know how to pronounce it, Face It TV. Faceit.tv with True Ghost Stories. They've finally got picked up, so
excited.
Round of applause for you, Steve.
So excited, Steve.
And because of that, I'm going to share their little teaser clip here.
I'm hearing breathing in here.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Send them.
You are about to face your fears.
So that'll be starting June 18th.
And I gotta say too, I've been hearing about this show for a while, and I cannot wait to check it out. It's gonna be awesome. I cannot wait.
We'll have to talk to Steve next week or something, and have him tell a little bit about the show.
Yeah.
And all that for everybody. Real quick for the people in the chat. Hey, Dara, Cassie, Michael. Wait, is that Michael Starr? It says Michael Starr is the name. Like,
Mikey Starr is a friend of mine.
I was
Michael
thinking
Starr.
I was thinking of Steel Panther. Michael Starr is the same.
Oh man, that would be pretty dope. I mean,
I'm just gonna pretend it's Michael Starr from Steel
all right,
Panther.
Sounds good to me.
Hello,
That'd
Kim.
be amazing.
Hey, Cheryl. Tonight we are going to have epic. Can't wait. Tonight we are going to have Jeff Mudgett here in just a few minutes. He's on board already. We're having him wait because we want to do a grand entrance.
Yes.
Before I bring him on, I want to talk about something that's bothered me this week. So 2 days ago, I'm on YouTube. I'm playing around. I'm, checking out a bunch of stuff because that's what I do. I have no life. I stumbled upon this live stream. Well, not necessarily stumbled, but I went on this live stream to see what was going on. Had 400 people watching it.
Good gracious.
This was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen in the paranormal field. I know a lot of people use the Ouija board. I'm okay with people using the Ouija board, all right? So let's not let's not get this twisted. What's up, PJ? So let's not get the Ouija board thing twisted. But when I go on there and I see this guy say, I don't have the planchette, I'm just going to use my hand.
I didn't even know that he said that. But
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He doesn't have the planchette, decides he's going to use his hand, and he's the only person there. Okay? This is what I'm watching.
Good gracious.
This is ridiculous.
And if you look at his arm, you can clearly see the muscle movements. I'm just saying. Like, I know he's doing the warm-up thing, but when he starts going from letter to letter, it's pretty obvious. Okay.
Yeah. So he was putting wax on his fingers to help the fluidity of his motion. But
Tell you something else to do with that wax. What?
Oh, this was like the cringiest thing I've seen.
I know. I'm feeling cringe just watching it. Like I was just thinking to myself too. I was like, oh god, this hurts. This really hurts. All right.
So this is what I come across, what I'm watching. So I blow up in the comments because I'm not like tooting my own horn, and I don't want people to think I'm tooting my own horn, but I believe I am a respectable and I don't want to say accomplished, but like I'm an avid paranormal researcher, and I emphasis
mediocre
researcher.
at best. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we're maybe half-assed. But I do like to emphasize researcher.
Yes.
Okay, because there's a lot of people in this field that do research the paranormal, like actually study it.
Yeah.
And do experiments and things like that.
Not just, hey, let's go check out the haunted location.
Yeah. So when I see something like this guy's got a big platform. He's got a lot of followers, a lot of viewers. And he does something like this and tries to tell them, hey, I'm communicating with a demon. By the way, he was...
all the time, right?
By the way, he was trying to contact the Zozo demon. Which is not a real demon.
No.
It's not. It could
you
be a
will never
thought form.
find it. Yeah.
But
yeah.
So yeah, cringiest thing I'd seen ever. So I'm not going to call him out by name. I really should. I almost want to call out his channel.
We can do it another time.
I just don't want to. Yeah, I just don't want to draw attention to it. So.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. I just had a little rant. We're past that now. Let's move on, shall we?
Get on with it.
Michael Starr says he loves the paranormal. They're my only friend.
Yeah. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Anyways.
All right, guys. We know why you're here.
Yes, the real reason.
I will take off my shirt, but only because there's that many here. No, I'm just kidding. It's because of Jeff Mudgett, and we'll bring
you
Jeff
started
in.
an OnlyFans?
Right? I should. Just do my feet. Not even tell people I'm a guy.
Feet pics. Done. All right, Frodo. I'm sure you can get some good pics.
This is a really good segue into bringing Jeff in. Oh, I gotta love it. Hey, you know what? Speaking of body parts, let's bring in the great-great-grandson of H.H. Holmes, Mr. Jeff Mudgett.
I want to just do a...
Hey, Charles, you guys, thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this, and now you got me wondering where my Ouija board is.
Oh, gonna start some more paranormal investigating, maybe? Who knows? You could get them at Spencer's. They're just down the street.
Hey, if this guy's doing it with his hand, you might as well just draw it out with a crayon and just, put your cup over it. And
exactly.
Just so everybody knows.
Before we get started, I want you guys to feel open and loose. I want you to ask me anything you want to know about American Ripper or bloodstains. Don't hold anything back. Get me in trouble here tonight, will you guys?
Even that goes for the audience too. Like if you guys have any questions, please put them in the comment section, and we'll ask Jeff.
Now, just so everybody's aware, there is a slight delay with us, so there will be like some pauses, so we can let each other answer. So let's start at the beginning, Jeff. How old were you when you found out that you were related, and what was that experience like? Just kind of wrapping your head around that.
I was about 40, guys. I was practicing lawyer in California. I had a family life, San Diego. I had a grandmother and grandfather who were very reclusive individuals. Had little to do with them. When my grandfather died, the family got into one of those last will and testament fights, and I just kind of stayed out of it. And then all of a sudden, one day, my dad brought over something that my grandfather had left me. A couple of fishing tackle boxes that he used to go off on the weekends all by himself with. And you got to remember, my great-great-grandfather is my grandfather's grandfather, okay? So H.H. Holmes is pretty close to my grandfather. That's only 2 generations apart.
Yeah.
So you can guess why he was a very reclusive, very successful, but very reclusive man. So anyway, I got these 2 fishing tackle boxes, and in the bottom of one of the boxes was some secret correspondence, which I called diaries in my stains. They weren't diaries, but I called them that. And the book is fiction based on a true story, so that was all legal. But they were correspondence from the killer to various people in his life. Well, as you can imagine, that took me by the throat, and I became obsessed finding out who this asshole H.H. Holmes was, because this was before Google, this was before all the easy stuff. This is when you really had to research to find out history, especially criminals and murderers like this. Well, I went through the trial transcripts, all those things, all the stories, all the newspaper accounts from the turn of the century, the 19th and 20th century. And I was shocked. This was, I think anyone who's read The Devil in the White City or my book or one of the other books about him, while there are skeptics and doubters about anything I say, I've found that out over the last 10 years about Holmes. None will disagree that this is the most evil American citizen who ever lived.
Yeah, I would say just judging off of descriptions and everything of him, I build that persona in my mind of what he would be like, and it's like he wouldn't even flinch to commit any of these acts.
No, just like what is it? The first episode, the detective that was working with you, she was very she was saying that him admitting that just cutting up the body and throwing it in the furnace and he had it was nothing. It was just like, well, that's clear psycho right there. Like, good gracious, that's insane.
Well, take this to the bank, guys. They actually invented the term psychopath for him.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. So I want to ask about these correspondence letters. Was there information in there that gave you like a really good head start on where to look and about the crimes he had committed?
Oh yeah, and it let me know he'd been in London. That's where I took off trying to determine whether he was Jack the Ripper or not, and spent a good 10 years of my life investigating that, and came to finally realize that the people at the TED Talks believed me. And then when the TED Talks let me put my show up, over 100,000 watched that. And then the people at History came and asked me if I'd be willing to put a show together for the American Ripper. And that's where it all went. And when we started, I knew this was the master of the murder castle. All right. This was the fella who had Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory in Chicago, 2 miles down the road from the World's Fair in 1892, when millions of people from around the world came to see the most extraordinary event in the history of man. All right. every great inventor you can imagine, all the great Einsteins, all those people, that anyone that invented anything was there at that time. And just 2 miles down the first Ferris wheel was there.
Yeah.
2 miles down the road, there's this little evil little creature frying up some innocent girls that he coaxed to spending the night in his hotel. Yeah. Grandpa.
Yeah, just straight up. God. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I was going to ask, you just said that reading over his letters, you found evidence that he was in London. Do you mention that in Bloodstains?
Oh yeah. Bloodstains.
Okay,
There's an entire chapter or two about Holmes in London. And
I'm going to have to read that.
To be fair about it, anything you read about Jack the Ripper, guys, is thesis and conjecture. It's very, very. It'll never be proven closer than where I've taken it. All right, because there are no eyewitness testimonies, despite all the authors who've written books. There are no fingerprints. There are no DNA. There are no blood types. There is no evidence that will ever determine the actual identity of the real Jack the Ripper. However, if you watch American Ripper, you came to realize that we've proven that Holmes wrote the Dear Boss letter, which actually describes one of the killings, the Catherine Eddowes murder. And that's where history let me take American Ripper, at least the first 6 episodes before we started getting into problems with where the show was going to end. And it got rather nasty at the end. Anyone that's watched American Ripper, guys, the first 6 or 7 episodes and some of the recreations of Holmes in London are some of the television you're ever going to see. That last episode is a disaster. And it was, I had no part in it whatsoever, and it was terrible. And it was just a network, the History Network, trying to get out of something as quickly as they could.
Of course.
I wonder why they would really do that, because, like you were saying, there was a lot of people watching that last episode. Yeah. And, the expectations were, they were built up high for that last episode.
Yeah.
And why they would drop the ball on it, that baffles me.
Right? It was going in such a great path, going in, all the stuff leading up to it just totally hooked me, and I had to finish the series. And then I get to the last episode and I see the ending, and I'm just like, what? This is it? We're done here?
Bullshit.
What? I was like, there's just letters thrown up, and there's no, we see you at the grave, and the hey, it's gonna send it to DNA. All right, nothing. Just that was it. I'm like, what? This episode just ended abruptly. It just seemed so weird and off-putting. But
there was a money problem. They had budgeted about $100,000 for the exhumation, and because of the very complicated legal the process involved in getting a judge to allow us to dig him up in the first place. Having the engineers there, the scientists from the University of Pennsylvania, as we were exhuming guys, the other graves started collapsing around us. We had to go hire these specialists to shore up the graves so that there was no damage, because the judge had said we were going to go to prison the rest of our life if we damaged any other graves. He basically said that. And
that's crazy.
And so we took him serious. So, as it kept going, and as we found empty coffins in the one grave, and then we found concrete sarcophaguses in the other that Holmes had engineered to hide identity, the budget soon became over $1 million, and history was just upset. You should have seen the executives there. They could have put me. If it was up to them, they'd have put me in that grave and buried me in it. They were that mad at the end of that show.
Gosh.
We said 100,000, not $1 million.
I can get over it.
Yeah. What's $1 million to them?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's $1 billion company.
They don't care. Exactly.
But I want to go back. I want to go back to when you were in London.
Yeah.
And how hard was it to get the forensics done? Like with the facial reconstruction that you guys did. How hard and how timely was that for you guys?
Now, I'll tell you guys, that's a great question, because I'll tell you what happened that would really shock me. In America, most of our viewer fans, they were very, very skeptical about the possibility that Dr. Holmes could have actually been Jack. When we got London, guys, the ripologists there climbed on board. They still have repeats of American Ripper in London today, but never here in the States. History won't play it in the States. And the ripperologists over there, and Scotland Yard too. I'll tell you an interesting anecdote about that. But they were very interested in my theory that Ripper could have been, at least one of the murders could have been committed by this little American doctor who had come over to London to further his business selling skeletons to universities. That's what he did for a living back here in the States for a while.
Yeah.
He'd create a skeleton down in the laboratory of the murder castle, and then take it off to the University of Ohio, Missouri, or one of those. And to this day, guys, there are skeletons in their medical museums that 2 or 3 of them have told me they think were sold to them by Holmes. And I was like, whoa, you guys keep those? You realize how we probably got that skeleton? And they kind of wink at me and then nod and walk off, and they keep it in the museum.
Well, I mean, how are they going to return it?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing.
They're going to bring him back to life.
They didn't give us a name when they dropped this off.
So when we were in London, we had a lot of energy in the project, and people wanted to help. They wanted to jump on board. I was in a hotel lobby one night sipping on a vodka tonic, and 2 of these very prestigious-looking agents walk over to me at the bar. They, their coats are unbuttoned, and they have that FBI look that we see in the TV all the time. They identified themselves as Scotland Yard, and they told me that while they completely disagreed that Jack the Ripper was H.H. Holmes, they completely agreed with my thesis that there was a copycat or 2 involved, and there never were 5 women murdered by the same serial killer. Now, think about that. See, so history, all of a sudden, I call history up on the phone, and I'm telling them, whoa, guys, Scotland Yard just told me we're close to solving this thing, to breaking it wide open, to making Jack the Ripper look like some silly thing that never, ever occurred. They shut that down quick. They wanted it to be about one guy killing 5.
Yeah. They wanted the mystique and the mystery and to keep it going. And what is it? The horror. Oh, gosh. They wanted to keep it going, basically.
So what that does, basically, I mean, if that information had gotten out there, I mean, that kind of tears apart the Jack the Ripper thing too. Like, I mean, that's a hefty piece of information to just throw on people. Like, Jack the Ripper was never a singular person; it was multiple people killing multiple victims, and they were copying said person. I mean,
which would explain why the kill is changed. Like each style of kill was pretty much different compared to the first. But I mean, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, that just takes away the whole mystique of this entity, Jack the Ripper. Yeah.
But then when you have the trunk of belongings that was found in the case that was shown to you of what was believed to be H.H. Holmes' possessions, where it had his...
the photograph, just say it.
The photograph.
That photo. It's my favorite piece.
It lined up perfectly, and I'm like, if this box belongs to H.H. Holmes, why is a Jack the Ripper victim in it? Huh? It's a good point. It lines up.
I'm very excited about how you both watch the show, okay, guys? Because what happened on American Ripper, and when I do talks after, was I found out that people don't have open minds about something like Jack the Ripper. They went in there thinking I was full of malarkey. I don't know how PG rated our show is here
We're
today,
not.
but
We're not rated.
We're drinking, so.
they thought I was full of shit, and that any thesis with a suspect from America was just a guy trying to sell books and a television show, and I really couldn't get over that hump. I'd have met people like you who've been willing to look at that trunk and seen the picture and some of those pieces of evidence, like the knife he had that was made in London, made in England, and the little things like that. And then when the FBI told me where to go get the handwriting on Dear Boss tested, comparing it to the handwriting comparison I had for my grandfather, when the FBI told me where to go to run it through which computer system, and it came back 97%. I still can't believe, guys, why I don't have someone huge sitting here knocking on my door wanting to put that together in a nice documentary that goes farther than American Ripper. Now, I told the guys at History, I told them, listen, I don't have someone who killed all 5 women, but I have one that proves that Dear Boss wasn't a journalistic hoax, and it was a man preparing for the Catherine Eddowes murder because he was in his hotel room intrigued, reading all about the Nichols and Chapman murders that had occurred 2 weeks earlier. And they just wanted no part of that story. They had just survived. Remember when the network almost went in burning flames about Amelia Earhart and the little the pier and the little the guy on the end of the pier, and how it was all a fraud. I was actually there at one of the shoots, and the director was getting scolded by the History executives about how they had barely survived Amelia Earhart, and they couldn't take another one like that. And they weren't going to change the entire Jack the Ripper story on my behalf.
Wow.
But there's nothing that disproves your theory.
Welcome to television.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to showbiz is how it goes. There's nothing that disproves your theory, so I don't know how they could just blatantly go, nope, I guess it's just all the money. But we do have a question.
Kim Libby asks, question for Jeff. Do or have you ever felt a spirit connection to your great-great-grandfather? In other words, have you ever felt him in spirit form trying to speak to you?
Yeah. When I was on my quest, my best friend and I, Kim Estes, a fellow that I played college basketball with, we traveled back to Chicago. We went to the location where the murder castle was, Kim, 63rd and Wallace, which is now, and this is another part of the story which always fascinates me. The United States Post Office bought the murder castle, tore it down, and built the United States Post Office over the top of it, knowing there had been murders there that were never investigated. Take that one to the bank.
Right.
So Kim and I are there. We go in and see the end of the post office. After about 3-4 hours of back and forth, he finally lets us go down into the basement at the post office, which is set over parts of where the murder is, but it doesn't sit directly over the top. A little over that. The basement into the post office is barricaded off, guys. The employees there, federal employees, knew it was haunted. They weren't ever going down in that basement.
Oh man.
Well, we knocked away all the barricade. We finally we had to break the door open. It was so rusted over.
Oh, cool.
And then climbing through the spider web. I write about this in my book in Bloodstains. Go down into the basement. There's some crazy, creepy stuff that I describe in the book down there. And my best friend Kim is an African American. All right. the turn of the century, 19th century, white supremacy, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we're down in the basement, and I start getting these whispers in my ear. And I've never experienced paranormal or a ghost or the spiritual before in my life. I was a criminal lawyer. I dealt with evidence, facts.
Right.
Yeah.
And this thing starts whispering in my ear about how he doesn't like him down in his basement with me. And he wants me to do something about this, and he wants me to do it like a real Mudgett would. I swear to God, that's what he told me. And I'd never had a voice in my entire life before, but down in that basement. And I tried to capture the moment in Bloodstains. So, Kim, I hope that answers your question.
Man.
Interesting.
That's cool. That's really neat. Oh, my goodness. That would blow my mind. So has there been any more developments with the post office? Have you guys since been back or done anything else there?
You know, they wouldn't let history go into the basement on American Ripper. History tried. And then they wouldn't let Zach on Ghost Adventures go into the basement either.
Take that.
It's probably a good idea.
Probably, yeah.
Now,
I tried to tell Zach if he let me engineer it, I probably could get him and his crew down in that basement. But I told him I wanted to know if he was prepared to actually prove the paranormal on TV one day, because it's down there.
That'd be really neat. It'd be just neat for anybody to get down there and take some equipment and if maybe have you along, and if you start hearing things again, they can record it and document it in real time, and then maybe have devices or something to record EVP and see if they could catch something there, because that would be really, really cool. Because then you could possibly hear, if you hear it in real time, you could possibly hear the voice of H.H. Holmes. Whoa. Just shivers. Anyways.
Well, there's
when I go to events, or when I go to events, sometimes when people shake my hand, the psychics, they say they feel stuff. I don't know if that's common or not.
Psychics, you have to take it or leave it. I mean,
yeah.
Myself personally, there's probably 3 psychics that I've ever met or talked to that I could probably say, yeah, they've done it with pretty good accuracy. Left an impression on me to where I'm like, I believe them. But then again, I've done so many live streams, not like the podcast, but like live investigations where people will come in there and say, I feel this over here, or I feel this and this. And it's like, I don't know about any of that, because it has nothing to do with the history, it has nothing to do with this property. But
like you said, grain of salt.
But who am I to say? You know?
True.
I'm not psychic. I'm not psychic enough to know if a psychic is psychic.
It's a very good point you make.
Yeah, Kim says that sounds like a good investigation for us. Let's go to the post office, Jeff.
Yes.
You're gonna lead this. You're gonna lead this expedition. We're gonna go down there.
I'll even visit Chicago.
I would love to go back. We'll go down there. We'll dig.
It's a rough place, guys. The cops get out of their squad cars there in full riot gear to get a Coke.
Oh, man.
Hey.
That's Chicago for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You'd still be in the post office. You'd be fine. It'd be all right.
We're on federal property. They can't shoot us.
Yeah. No guns allowed. Anyways.
Yeah, it is a post office, by the way.
Now, another thing I did find fascinating is with the letters that they analyzed, they were able to determine that, before you did the writing with H.H. Holmes and the writing with the Dear Boss letters, I know in the show they talked about how the linguists analyzed it and determined that it wasn't British style writing or a British person style of writing. It was more of an American style writing, and I thought that was very interesting too. Which kind of it goes along with the analyzation of the letters. And I always seem, since listening to Holmes's case, where he would forge, I think he would forge the letters and send it to other family members. So I think he could definitely change up his handwriting like that. Like if he had the hands of a surgeon where they were steady, I'm sure he could change it somehow and match it up. But I know that there was one specific letter that he sent that the family said that it didn't really line up with how she would talk, and it didn't really line up with how it was worded and how she would talk. So it kind of gave him away there. But I really thought that was very interesting too, because he just can't help himself.
Those two linguists were awesome. I enjoyed. We did some off camera talks that I wish I could have directed that episode with them, and had them actually going over different parts of the actual handwriting on Dawson letters. Like everything else, guys, they started out thinking I was full of crap. At the end of the show, we were swapping email addresses because they thought I had something, So many people were like that.
Which is awesome, and in the entertainment business, you don't see that too much unless you can benefit somebody else. But with the linguists, you were saying you wish you could have directed that. I think it would have been better for the show even if they would have actually put the linguists on there, like you were saying, kind of go over everything, what they found and detailed what they saw with the letters.
Speech patterns, everything. Instead
of doing a voiceover.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather see the professionals tell us about it than a Hollywood voiceover, I want to get back to that picture for a minute, though.
Okay.
Because that picture, to me, is like the smoking gun. Photographs weren't popular back then. Not as popular as, of course, today, but like they weren't common. So for him to have this photograph of one of the Ripper victims in his possession cannot just be coincidence. What are the odds, honestly? You think about it. Did you guys ever go further with the analysis of the photo, or did you guys just leave it as it was on the show?
I didn't get to make those decisions, guys. I was at that time. By that time, the director and I we had issues. I was asking him if I could know what the next day's shoot was going to be about. And he was telling me no, he wanted me to have a shocked look on my face when I saw something that I wasn't aware of, and I wasn't a good actor, so he had to get that in real life from me. But then I later found out that he was telling Amaryllis everything that was the next day's shoot so that she could pull off the scene. And if taken it as if it was a court of law and walked over each piece of evidence so the viewing public could have seen and their own decision regarding whether it was valid or not, I think it would have gone much further. And then let them go with their recreations, because the guy that played Holmes and Jack the Ripper in the recreations, I thought was tremendous. He should have got an award for something. He was really good
great job.
and fun to work with. And their recreations were some of the best of London, that period London I've ever seen. And how they combined us discussing the evidence and then throwing in the recreations. I thought the director did a great job, and so did history. And it was a shame.
Cinematography was...
Yeah,
cinematography was great.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get to keep any of the possessions? Or did history jump on them and claim them?
Oh yeah, no, I don't have any of them.
Oh, that's a shame. What the hell?
That's sad. That's so sad. I get it. It's a money maker for them, and whatever.
Look, I'm pissed off for you.
Yes, 100%. Family history right there.
Yeah.
Vital family.
I've probably done 200 of these shows, and that's the first time anyone's ever asked me that. But that's good. We think alike, because there was a part of me one night when they were cleaning up that I actually thought about pocketing a couple of the things.
Yeah, why not?
But then I thought if I got caught, well, it was getting ugly. It was getting ugly, and I chickened out, guys. I chickened out.
Now I would press for him though. I would ask him, be like, hey, I am his relative. I am the one that is active in his history. Let me have these items.
Get him before Zach Bagans does.
Yeah.
Just saying. Get him before Zach does. Or you can donate him to Zach. Whatever. Just.
I mean, you're in Vegas, right?
That was fun. Yeah, yeah.
So there you go. If you wanted to donate them to Zach, you could always visit him at the museum.
Yeah. Now
I told Zach, I said, you know, when you get the courage up, let me know. We'll go down into that post office basement. I did a show with him. I did one of his Ghost Adventures show. We were in one of Holmes's houses in Indianapolis, I think, and Zach thought he had this paranormal event all set up, and when I walked in, something was going to happen. It was fun. The crew was fun to work with. His partners are awesome, and he's a fun guy. I had a great time, and they treated me like a king, so it was well.
I've
Good,
always
at least
heard
he
that.
had respect. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, at least he's a like I was saying the other day. I came across a video of them doing the I think it was the Stanley group session. He was telling people like, "Hey, don't expect anything to happen. You know, in paranormal field, nothing really happens all the time. Even though it seems like with the show, but it's of course because they're recording like 2, 3, 4 days of recording. So it makes a lot of sense. Not judgments, but thoughts were changed for sure. Now with the medical history, before Holmes went to school, he did the apprenticeship for a while. Where do you think his fascination with the medical really started? Back majorly when he was like a kid or teenager? Like, where do you think that all started?
You know, I don't know if I've ever contemplated that, where he would have had the burn to go to medical school first. You know, I know he taught elementary school in Gilmington,
Yeah.
which should give you chills. But then, you know, he went to the University of Michigan, got his medical degree. Some of the legend and lore about him there is quite interesting. Some of the other authors have done a great job of piece by piece the stories about him barely spending time there in class. He'd show up for a test, pass the test, and then take off. But he was never that concerned with the top of the class. No.
Yeah.
But he always was good with the women. He had quite a few different girlfriends, ladies. The ladies always acted quite strange around Holmes. Even when they knew what he was, there was a reporter who was there when they announced the jury finding him guilty at the trial, and 3 or 4 of his old wives and girlfriends were in the audience, and as they shackled him up and let him off to be executed, they raised up, and the reporter talked about them with crocodile tears going down their faces, even when they'd just been made aware that their old lover had been a serial killer.
Gosh. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, love is love. You know?
Yeah, it absolutely is. So what I was gonna ask is, and it has to do back with that picture again. Theory here. If he kept the picture of her, did maybe she meant something to him back when he spent his time in England? Because it would make a lot of sense because he killed what is it, Julia? I can't think of her name exactly here. One of his victims, he killed her, and they had a fling together. She was cheating on her husband, and then he left, and then eventually he killed her. So it lines up to where he could just eliminate them once he was done with them. And what if the lady in the picture actually meant something to him? It would make a lot of sense.
It does. She must have meant special to him. Was if his work was done. I don't know what he never mentioned it in any of the correspondence I had. He
Right.
very rarely talked of women or love affairs. There was no love in this man's heart. He
Yeah.
used women. They were a
Yeah.
tool for him. They were a tool. They were something he played with, that he worked with. That I'll tell you, when he was preparing his escape from prison and the superintendent was preparing his execution, his first wife, who he divorced, not actually divorced, but dumped, even though she knew he had nothing for her left, she made 3 trips to visit him in prison, then back over to Chicago. I have her diary. Then back over to
Wow.
Chicago. Um, I'm convinced to make runs to banks so that he could have the cash in hand that he needed to pull off the escape.
So
Jeez.
let's talk about that escape real quick, because that would have been a well orchestrated thing to happen. And I remember you saying that it was one of the hangman was one. I think it was you saying that the hangman was the one that actually was hung, or one of the guards was actually hung instead of Holmes. Like they switched places. What do you think transpired?
I don't remember saying that. No.
I know that some of the people
Somebody-
tied to his case mysteriously died in different ways, but
Well, with his hanging, I believe somebody was switched. Like they switched Holmes with somebody else. I heard it was a guard. I want
There
to say it
was
was
a
like a guard.
substitution.
Yeah.
There was a substitution, but I'm convinced now that there was a body brought from Chicago that was prepared with the dental records, the work that was necessary to pull off a false ID with the dental records. See, that's the only piece of forensic evidence there was back then. There was no fingerprints, there was no blood, there was no DNA, there was dental records. And Holmes was a master at false identity and using dental records to pull off life insurance fraud. And he had a dentist in Chicago that was his partner doing it. And I'm convinced they had the body in Chicago. They brought it out to Philadelphia. When we dug up the Holmes actually, and you guys can help me figure this out, all right? Holmes actually bought 2 graves, all right, at the Holy Cross Cemetery. He converted to Catholicism so he could get into Holy Cross Cemetery because they wouldn't let him in unless he was a baptized Catholic. And he bought the 2 graves. We were digging the first, and we had the 2 anthropologists from the University of Pennsylvania, 2 great ladies, experts in their field, brilliant and a lot of fun to work with. And they got to be best friends with Amaryllis Fox, who I knew you both fell in love with too, my co-host. Right? Everybody that watched the show loved us. So she was incredible. So they're digging away, and we're in the first grave. When we go to the standard depth, 8 feet, okay? And we're digging down, and they're down with their shovels, and all of a sudden we hear the knock on wood. You know? They dig around it, and there is a wood coffin, but not a fancy coffin, more like one train being transported across country. They open it up, and it's empty. Well, you can imagine you got 30 guys in the production crew. You got engineers, you got anthropologists, you got the history executives over there seeing what they're spending their money on. I'm looking down. Amaryllis is CIA quizzed, and we have an empty coffin. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, we've just done the greatest scene in the history of television. It's empty. It's empty. Yeah. And I'm thinking, this is done. This guy, we proved it. This guy hauled ass. He moved to California, killing other people with another name, which I think he did. But anyway, that's another story. So we're there, and they're all trying to figure out what to do. And Amaryllis and the director go over and spend 2 hours talking the history executives into letting them dig deeper into the next grave that Holmes bought, because he bought 2. Well, they let him do it. You know, we got the machinery there, we got the everything. They dig 2 feet deeper down, and all of a sudden we come to that concrete block, a sarcophagus.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden there's more questions. Now, why was the one coffin empty? The one is 2 feet deeper than normal, and now it's concrete. Well, the anthropologists, you can imagine, they're excited. This is the task of career and education. They're Jews. So they're chipping away at the concrete, and they open it up, and all of a sudden you see, have you seen the pictures where you see his face looking out through the concrete at you? He's got his bowler hat, his teeth, there's still mustache. He still has clothes on. Yeah, and I'll tell you something, guys. You can't imagine how terrible it smelled.
Yeah.
It was worse than anything you can possibly imagine. So I'm there at the grave trying not to throw up. And the 2 anthropologists are down digging away. You got to hand it to them. These 2 gals are down digging in this putrid mess. And the director says, Mudgett, we need you down in the bottom of the coffin down there. We're digging with them. And I said, I'm not going to. I'm a lawyer. I'm not a digger. And Amaryllis, that cute little brunette, she raises her hand and she jumps right down and she's digging away with the other one. It was a great scene, and it was. And then the whole mystery started getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And what we ran into, guys, was everyone there. When I talked history into allowing us to get the judge to agree to the exhumation, I told them, I said, hey, you know, we've done a lot of work. We spent a lot of money. If Holmes in London, there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of the picture you guys are talking about, the knives we found that were made in London, you know, the linguists, my handwriting analysis. There's a lot of stuff there about Holmes being Jack the Ripper. And I said, we've got one chance of hitting this out of the park. What if there's something in that grave tying him to London and Whitechapel? Yeah. Well, you know, and their eyes went like this.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
You know, and I talked them into it. I also wanted to find out, guys. I'd always had this theory, and you guys brought it up earlier. That one of the great parts of the Holmes story that no one's really got into, that I'm hoping Hollywood wants to make a movie one day, is the Holmes curse. How everyone involved in his arrest, his incarceration, his trial, his prison time, the burial, his pastor, his father, the prison superintendent, the judge, everyone either died or suffered terrible misfortune in their lives.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, you know, I don't believe in a Holmes curse where a ghost goes and revisits these people. But there's something about him, this crafty little devil, this master of false identity, having faked the execution, substituted another body, and then gone and visited them with the blank check he would have had the whole country thought him dead. You know, his trial, his execution was on every newspaper in America.
He literally had the perfect way of disappearing.
Go ahead, guys. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I was just gonna say he had the perfect way to disappear. He just basically stopped existing.
It's maybe the most perfect Hollywood script ever written, isn't it? You know?
Master of disguise.
So they agreed to do it. They agreed to spend the $100,000, but not the million. But you know, so when we dug up, and he was there in the bowler, and he had Everyone there thought that I had pulled off some con on them, that it was a fraud, that I had just wanted to see my great-great-grandfather, to hold his skull in my hand as in the Shakespeare play, with Hamlet. Tried to tell him, no, that's not, especially when his brain is still in his skull. It was still there.
Yeah.
I said, I wanted to find out first.
Yeah.
And I could never get them over the hump, guys. And this is what we were talking about before. I could never get them over the hump, and how they ended the show so tragically, because I gave DNA to compare with the remains. It didn't match. I don't know about you guys, but in this day of forensic science, my great-great-grandfather's DNA should have matched mine.
Yeah.
And I have,
I
have the DNA report. I have it.
I was going to bring up something real quick.
Go.
Number one, of course, on the show they said that it wasn't, which you and I have talked before, and that's when I learned that they came back inconclusive, is what you had said to me then. But also, I wanted to touch back on the whole curse thing, because this plays out so well in my mind. So let's look at Holmes. Holmes was a master liar, probably a thief. Well, not probably. I mean,
no,
he
was
definitely a body snatcher. Right?
Yeah. Well, and not to mention he got things
insurance
insurance fraud and credit and all that stuff.
Master thief, master of disguise, with his whole identity and everything, and a master killer. These four things would apply to his escape. So when he does escape, the people that were affected by this curse, what if he himself had something to do with their death or their misfortunes? It wasn't a curse. It was him making sure that nobody talked and nobody gave anything away.
Means to an end, cutting loose ends.
depending on how much they know. I mean, if they knew everything, kill them. Shuts them up right away. If they knew some information.
And guys, have you ever attended a criminal trial?
No.
I was a juror for one.
The people that. Okay, well, then you're going to know what I'm talking about. The people that testify against a defendant, one that turns out to be guilty, usually for the first time in their life, they think they're safe to say what was really in their heart and mind about this evil little dude, okay?
Yeah.
So Holmes would have been sitting there listening to these people say these things about him, scratching his chin, thinking, I'm going to go visit you afterwards, you little bastard. And
I'm going to kill you in certain ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think, like I said, I don't think it was so much a curse. I think it was him going back and covering some tracks.
Yeah. I can totally see that. Now, go ahead, David.
Go ahead.
Kim Libby had a question, which I'll let you address. I know it does in the show, and that we kind of addressed it, but I'll just let you address it real quick.
Yeah, we tested the DNA in May. All right. History wanted the finest college in the world, a laboratory in the world, to do the testing for them. Which, to their credit, they did a lot of stuff like that on the show. They spent the extra money, and it was King's College of London, which has a reputation, and Scotland Yard and FBI recommended them too, of being the DNA testers of criminology. So I was there. They took blood from me and my father. My father and mine matched it perfectly. Then they took the samples. I was there when the King's College was on the phone on the talk, and was instructing the two anthropologists exactly where they wanted the sample to be taken from the remains. And they had this diamond drill bit, and they rolled the skull over, and there's a porous bone in the back of your head. And they had them drill down past where anybody could have contaminated anything. And they took this powder, packaged it up, and flew it to London. Well, and it's a 3 to 5 day test, guys, for them to test the DNA, come back with results, and then compare them with mine. Well, 3 months later, they still don't have anything. They asked for second samples. I gave them second samples. They asked for other parts of the remains. We gave them those. Still nothing. About July, the two anthropologists have an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. And they admit to Rolling Stone that they've given up on DNA. The DNA was never going to help them identify the remains. They were going to concentrate on the dental records. Goodbye. I have that article, all right?
Okay.
So then you can imagine my surprise when I saw that final episode and it says DNA shows the identity to be H.H. Holmes. DNA and dental records, I think they said something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're shocked. I call up the two anthropologists. They say they're shocked. And you know, I know you. I know everyone on the production crew, everyone on History thought they'd wasted their time and money. That this was H.H. Holmes. They just wanted to get over with. But I'm sitting there thinking, guys, this is a master of false identity. He used dental records to fake out insurance companies.
Yeah,
he had a dentist in Chicago that was his partner. They used to make dental casts for their fake life insurance fraud cases. And I'm saying the DNA wasn't, and we're direct paternal, the male line is the strongest one there is to compare DNA, all right?
Right.
Although some people might say the maternal line. I'm not an expert on DNA, so I'll back off that. So we had that. We had the skeleton, right?
Yep.
The skeleton was 6 inches too short. The anthropologist admitted to me the skeleton was 6 inches too short.
Yep.
They told me to my face. And then history on the show screwed up and admitted no electron to the neck vertebra. When they dropped this man 8 foot through a scaffolding and jerked him to death on the end of her, they had to cut the rope out of the flesh. It was so embedded. Okay? And there was no damage to the neck. All of the medical forensic scientists that I talked to said there's no way that happened. You have these little tag bones on your neck vertebra. At least those would have been broken, and at least and probably the vertebra too.
Yeah.
So we had all of these things saying no, except the dental records. And I'm so glad to have been on your show here tonight because you guys both saw that's what Holmes did for a living, dental records.
Yeah. That was his specialty. His bodies was his specialty. Like,
and being at that time, he would know the only way they could identify him was dental. The DNA was not a thought back then. That was not in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if he's going to specialize in the most damning thing to a criminal case at the time, well, then might as well, specialize in it and cover your tracks. That's a good way to do it, too.
It lines up perfectly for him.
I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast because I see you guys think like I do when you see something strange bubble up in the broth. And I'll tell you, what's always cracked me up was when you go back and research anything about Holmes, you don't find any photographs about his incarceration. You don't find any photographs about his trial. You don't find any photographs about the execution. You don't find any photographs about the burial. They're all artist depictions, okay? There's one photograph, and it's of the dental cast for the dental record.
Now, you were telling us something pretty peculiar before we started the show about having some records. I'm going to let you elaborate on that here in just a second. We had a question pop up here. I don't know if you can read that. Was there any was there DNA evidence left in the empty casket that was on top of the body? They should have swabbed the empty casket.
I'm not aware of them doing that. No. And they were upset about budget.
Yeah.
Well, if it was just an empty casket, or if he was like there was a casket on top of wasn't there a casket on top of the concrete?
No.
Okay.
Offset a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you put the two plots set next to each other.
If it was just like a distraction grave.
Yeah.
Because I remember on the show they were saying that he did that so grave robbers wouldn't come and rob his grave or whatever, which kind of bullshit. But if somebody were to dig down in there and if they wanted to use that as a distraction casket, I mean, it wouldn't have a body in it. I don't think. They would just bury a box.
Yep.
And that's what it looked like they did too. So
wasn't that one of his instructions? Like, didn't he say that like he laid out his instructions on how he wanted his burial to go, which would line up perfectly with him faking his death?
And it's very specific.
Yeah, very specific.
I heard that a couple of times before, but I've never seen the instructions in all my research.
Okay.
Well, that's good. You cleared that up.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I thought. I thought like in the some of the accounts that I've heard from other people that he like planned it all out.
Yeah, even on the show they said that he planned for a certain way to be buried and everything. And if that was the case, I mean, you think about the way, like if I were to die, if I wanted to be cremated, I'd have my ashes spreaded, or if I'm going to die, bury me in this cemetery. That's all I would say. Nobody's going to say, bury me at this depth with this over me. I don't want this and this.
Not to mention they didn't have the machinery like we do today, and it took you guys a while to dig up that grave. So imagine how long it would have taken for those people to actually bury him or whoever it was. Like how much work they would need to do for that. How did the ground not collapse, like going down far enough? That's nuts.
And you still have to pour the concrete and let it set.
Gosh.
What you find, guys, one of the most, if I do nothing else about, proving that he escaped or proving finally that he was Jack the Ripper, I'll tell you this. What I learned was that there was probably 30 or 40 different newspaper articles written about the execution and burial of H.H. Holmes, all right? Mm. Every one of them, of the major newspapers in America, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Philadelphia Sun, were all different. When an author writes a book about H.H. Holmes, they go back and they pick the article that fits where they want their story to go. And it's so disappointing to have someone get up and call me a bunch of names because I'm not agreeing with where their book ended up, because their newspaper article was different than what I found in the grave with my own eyes when we dug him up. And it's, I think that happens in history quite often. And it's something you should watch out for when you read a book about Abraham Lincoln or read a book about the Declaration of Independence. It's who was telling the story at the time and how did it get in a newspaper article, and who was the artist doing the depiction of the body going down the grave. And it's kind of disappointing because that you can see that there's very little. What we know about H.H. Holmes as fact has to do with our exhumation on American Ripper.
Mm.
Let me say something here, Jeff. I am taking my first dive as a filmmaker. I'm taking my first dive into true crime this summer. I'm shooting a case and all this. After that, if at that point you don't have a documentary filmmaker to do something with, let's raise the funds. Let's put something together. I'm throwing it out there for
Can
you.
we get Charles to help?
I would
Charles
love it.
Would love it. Yes, he would.
Please.
And you know what, guys? You know what, guys? I teased you before I got on. I had a Bloodstains Facebook post that I was putting on saying, "Hey, everybody out there, Netflix, Hulu, all of you guys, I'll give you my files regarding the DNA, the skeleton, the dental records, the cause of death trauma, the burial. I'll give them to you at no cost if you investigate what really happened on your own without setting your minds straight beforehand that this was H.H. Holmes. Keep an open mind." And you know what, Dave? You know what, Dave and Charles? I'm really excited about what you said, because you guys have an open mind about when you see a fact that doesn't square up with where it was supposed to go because somebody wrote a book about it. You're not automatically chucking it out the window. You're thinking about, why doesn't that work?
Yep.
It's
that's
like calling.
That's what you got to do.
If an orange was in the shape of a lemon, you don't still call it a lemon. It's still an orange, right?
Yeah.
An orange is an orange. It's
Yeah.
whatever the shape. You still got to examine it, cut it open, make sure the inner parts are still the orange. You know, you can't just call it a lemon.
You got to question everything.
Always.
Everything.
When I saw that final episode, I called up the lead anthropologist at the University of Pennsylvania, and she and I at that time were still good friends. We're not anymore. And she has some agreement with history in University of Pennsylvania. Something came up, but I called her life. I called her and I said,
there goes PG.
Wait a minute. You were there. The DNA didn't match.
Yeah.
The skeleton was short. You told me it was too short. You can't just rely on those teeth. Think about what if, okay, the match, I'll give you that. The teeth do match. But that doesn't explain why the other components of the evidence say, no, it's not Holmes. I told her, I said, Catherine, if this was in a criminal court of law and you had a prosecutor raising the teeth, and a defense lawyer raising the cause of death trauma not matching, the skeleton not matching, the DNA not matching, I said a jury could not find him guilty.
Yeah.
No.
You couldn't. Why did you in history want to get up on national television and say that was him? Why didn't we take it another episode and say, whoa, we got to do some more work on this. This is fun.
Mm-hmm. That would be fun.
What you just said right there, that should be like the thing right there.
Yeah.
I mean, filming is fun. What you're doing, the exploration, everything, it's fun, but it's also you're getting some knowledge out of it.
Yeah, you're getting results. You are finding key specific incidences and proving whether it is or is not, and it's really helping your case further along, and why people don't want to pick it up. Like, I'm even surprised, like how you were saying how over in England, like they're all, they're ranting and raving for it, and it's all amazing over there. Has nobody reached out to you over in England about maybe doing some filming or anything?
No. They write me and saying, Jeff, we're watching another rerun of American Ripper. We love it. And I'm sitting there going, God, they watch it in South Africa. They love it in Australia. They love it in Canada.
All the people with open minds.
History won't let them play it here again.
That's nuts.
I know it's on Amazon Prime. I made Charles
aware
of the show.
And that's how I found it, and I have watched it, and it was just phenomenal. It was great, except for the last episode. But
Amazon, huh?
Yeah. So, one other question I want to ask is, I watched a video of you at a book signing where you were taking questions and everything, and people asked you how you felt when you first found out about being related to H.H. Holmes, but I want to ask you that, and then where are you now? Like, do you feel closer to Holmes or Mudgett?
Like, I guess really knowing who your great-great-grand...
Yeah.
is. And,
Do you guys do you feel
that he-
closer to him since you found out? Because I know how you felt before, but like now, since you did all this research, you've went above and beyond with everything. Do you feel a closer connection to him?
Great question. One of the things that disappoints me the most, guys, is that no one, no one in troop, no one in mental health, those issues, no one has come to me and said, Jeff, your research, your journey, your passion, what you've given us is proof, and your family after him, his son, his grandson, his great-grandson, my father, me, all of us were law-abiding American patriotics. Two of my family were war heroes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was on D-Day.
Oh, wow.
They made, despite having this genealogy, all right, despite being the offspring of perhaps the most, besides Hitler, if you move that out of the way, perhaps the most evil thing that ever lived, it had to do with personal choices, nothing about what you were born into. And you know what, to me, that should be something somebody wants to discuss.
Yeah, analyze and discuss. Yeah.
Well, that was something else. Well, it just kind of sparked something here. Man, all right, it just slipped because I started reading a comment there too.
Of course.
I'm going to put up a comment here, and I'm going to let you address it real quick. Kim says, maybe the reason the DNA didn't match is because his grandpa wasn't his relative. His true grandpa may have been killed by the imposter in the casket.
Da, da, da.
I'm not sure, guys, about how Holmes engineered the entire conspiracy and escape. Because let's face it, and this is one of the things that people throw my theories away with. They always say, for that to have happened, what you're stating, there had to be more than just Holmes involved. There had to be 3, 4, 5, 6.
There was.
People.
Yeah, but with the amount of money that he had, he could have done it back then.
But there was more involved.
Yeah.
You had his partner in Chicago doing the dental stuff.
lady-
Guys, you'll be amazed how many people don't want to agree to believe in anything if there's 2 or 3 people that have been involved. And I think when we're watching the news now, when we're getting to watch the news now about the Wuhan lab and all that stuff, I think people are starting to realize Holmes was a master conspirator. He probably, while in prison, he was interviewed by the Hearst Corporation, interviewed in prison, all right? They paid him $7,500 cash.
Wow.
His wife made 3 trips to Chicago for him. She probably brought in more cash. At that time, 1890s, was the greatest depression in American history. The whole country was broke except if you were a Vanderbilt or a Hearst. Holmes had a lot of money in his pocket. Have you ever seen that picture of him writing in his prison cell at the desk there in the cell? And he's dressed in this suit, and he's in prison. And it's and like I said, it's an artist depiction, so I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know.
It reminds me of Al Capone when he was in prison.
Yeah, people have told me that before. Yeah. And he had this wad of cash. You know that 2 weeks after the alleged, 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the alleged execution, the prison superintendent at Moyamensing blew his brains out in his office right down the hall from Holmes's prison cell.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I see you guys working on that. I see you guys.
Good gracious. All right. Well, there's that.
I just remembered my question, too, that I was going to ask you. This goes back to the beginning of the show. We're kind of bringing it back around. So, your father brought you your grandfather's, what he left you. Did
Right.
your father know what he was giving you?
No.
No idea.
Wow.
Did you tell him?
here's the deal, and I captured it rather well in the book. I'll throw myself some accolades, but the writing on that chapter is very good. It's about my grandfather and I both like to fish, guys. He used to go for the weekend fishing. When I was a little boy, my mom would dress me up with a lunch on Saturday morning, and I'd go out to the Navy base and fish all day long. My grandfather knew I liked to fish, and he liked to fish every weekend. He never invited me once. Your grandfather, okay? So when he dies, and the rest of the family's getting property and all over California, I get these fishing tackle boxes, guys. My father thinks they're lures, they're hooks, they're weights. He didn't ever look in the bottom.
But little did he
My
know.
grandfather knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted me to have those letters. Yeah.
That's so cool.
And he wanted me to understand why he had never invited me fishing.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He had thoughts. He had thoughts in his head his whole life. He was worried about instincts. He was worried about following in the footsteps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like if it's
Bringing it too
hereditary,
early.
if it's
Yeah.
trickling down.
Yep.
So, when you found out, did you ever tell your father?
Oh yeah.
And how was that reaction?
Well, my father was cool with it. My father had to sign some documents for history, giving them his consent. He had to give DNA. He had no problem with it. My father was a jet pilot in Vietnam. He was brave. He's a brave dude. And he liked
this day and age. This day and age, he's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that was him. My uncle had problems with the whole thing and almost shut the thing down. He could have said no, vetoed the exhumation, but I talked him into allowing it to happen. Yeah, he could have said no.
Jeez.
The judge wanted his consent. Yeah.
Which I guess it goes with entertainment law, where you have to have certain family members, or if there's like any existing family members of a deceased person, depending on what state, and that's kind of what I'm looking into now.
Dave, we had to have consent documents signed every other day for a year.
Jeez.
By somebody. Yeah.
Even though they're not mentioned in the show whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just because they're related.
Yeah, that's nuts. And I was going to ask, was there anything that during the filming process or after, before, what have you, that you wanted to include into the show, but history wouldn't let you?
Oh, yeah.
Let's have it, Jeff.
I was going to say, is there anything that you want to tell us?
Let's have it.
There is. I'm trying to work out the home run. I told you guys earlier that the director was a brilliant guy. All right.
Yeah.
You can see his work on the recreations. He should have won an award.
Yeah.
He and I had a damn near a fisticuffs one day. Me telling him, quit locking your mind up that this is Holmes. Give me a chance. Let it go down that path where it might not be him. And I said, you're a brilliant guy. You know how to make movies. Think about where you could go with this thing if we prove it's not him. You've got one of the greatest stories in American true crime history. Probably the greatest.
Right there in your hands, just ready to
You're
go.
going to own it. Yeah, and you're going to own it. And you'll be the man. And I couldn't get and you know what, Dave? That's why I'm so excited about coming on the show with you guys and hearing you guys talk about. Let's look at possibilities of the other side.
Yeah.
Because I've been waiting for people like that for 10 years.
Man.
Well, let's face it. True crime really does blend with the paranormal, because if you don't look at all the pieces, you're not going to find the bits that don't fit, and those bits that don't fit could be like the key to a whole nother story, a whole nother perspective on things. And along with the paranormal, I've been researching the paranormal for over 15 years. We're always seeking answers, right? Everywhere we turn, there's new possibilities. There's new ways of thinking. You can go into quantum physics. You can go into different maths. Math is the language of the universe. Maybe, something mathematical goes with paranormal. But there's always those possibilities. And if we don't explore them, we're not going to have any answers. And that's the thing with, like, true crime, with this case here. There's so many avenues that people can go down.
Yeah.
Why not explore them all? Get the answers. Find the truths. That's what we should be doing.
Well, Dave, Charles, think about making a movie recreating his murder trial, where the first day he fires his 2 defense lawyers and takes his defense on by himself, and then has to cross-examine 2 of his ex-wives. And they're up there doing their little back and forth, and the jury's sitting. What a story you had there!
I can only imagine the mind games.
And like you say,
every man.
I had a talk the other day with a fella that I won't give you his name because I'll probably get sued. But he was on the production team of CSI and Criminals. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I told him about the story about Ripper, about my theories, he said, and I told him that just tell me why this story was owned by Tom Cruise, it was owned by Martin Scorsese, and it was owned by Leonardo DiCaprio, the giants in Hollywood.
Yeah,
they had $200 or $300 million to make this movie, and all of a sudden it just kind of slid away.
Yeah.
I said, what happened? What happened to it? And I said, when they still had it in their hands, I had guys from Hollywood coming to me and saying, Jeff, let's make another movie. He goes, that was never going to happen. No one was going to invest money in your book, Bloodstains, while Martin Scorsese owned the story. No one. He said, that's not going to happen in Hollywood. He said, he says, I'm shocked that no one can see that if the Holmes story is done properly, if this story is done the American Dr. Frankenstein, whatever you want to call it. He said, there's something in Hollywood we all dream about in production. He said, it's called the transmedia model. He said, you could sell 100 products relating to this story. He said, they'd drive a Brinks truck up to your front door, Jeff. They would. And he said, they'd be doing videos, they'd be doing hats, they'd be doing everything. He said, that's what Hollywood dreams about now. And he says, I'm shocked no one's taking it over. So, Dave, let's make a movie.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Fall 2022.
Yes. A little. That would be amazing.
Hey, like I said, I'm taking my first dive into true crime. And I'm hoping it goes well. I'm doing it virtually all on my own, which is a big undertaking. But it's a big step. I've got a Indiegogo campaign out there for anybody watching. If you want to go donate to that, go to my Facebook page. But for the most part, I'm funding it myself. But I'm taking so much extra effort. I've got 2 documentary films out, but I'm taking so much extra effort on this film because it is a personal story of somebody that's been alive and family members are alive, and I want to go with the utmost care and respectability with it because I don't want to misrepresent the story. But in nature, it's a very tragic story of, basically, from what I'll put out right now, is like a 14-year-old got up one morning about 4 a.m., killed everybody in his family, went to his uncle's house, killed his uncle's wife, and his uncle came in and killed him. Made national headlines in 1987, and but there's a very huge twist to this. I don't know if you've ever seen the Amityville Horror.
Oh yeah.
Okay. through my research, my initial research, this sparked a correlation to that. Like everything that happened in Amityville resembled what I was reading in this case.
Interesting.
So I'm exploring this in a true crime aspect, but I'm also exploring this in a paranormal aspect. So it's going to be very delicate because there's certain people I have to talk to do this, and it's gonna be a challenge. But if it turns out as good as I hope, then when we do the H.H. Holmes doc, masterpiece.
Yeah.
Well, you know what and I'll help you do it, but you need to write a one-pager. That's what this guy insisted to me about Hollywood. Investment groups deal in, it's called a one-pager treatment, whatever. And the log line, the first sentence, which is, there's, in these documents, you've got to describe your whole movie in one stinking sentence.
Yeah.
And he said that's the way it's done, and it's difficult, but there's people that make livings doing that.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to write a one-pager for Bloodstain. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a treatment for a show I was trying to pitch called Paranormal Studies that was actually going to be like a whole new take on the whole paranormal reality thing, which was more scientific driven and was really going to tear apart all these crap shows that are out there like that fake everything and try to entertain.
Yeah.
But this still had entertainment value, but you were actually gaining knowledge, and it was going to actually advance the field some. But apparently that's not popular, and I would kill some people's cash cows. So that didn't get picked up. But this film I'm actually taking on as my own production company. Everything is me. So fingers crossed it goes good. And all that good jazz, you know.
Good luck, man. I'll be eager to hear how it goes. I will be.
I will send you the teaser. Actually, if you've got a few minutes, hang on.
Thanks, Cassie. Yeah, give me 2 minutes real quick. I'll be right back.
All right. So, are you going to go pee? Charles going to go pee. He has the bladder of a 5-year-old. Mine is the bladder of a 6-year-old, but I'm not counting. I do want to ask about. I was going to go in this direction too. So after Holmes, the hanging happened. On the show, there was mention of similar style killings happening in Canada. Have you pursued looking into the information of each of those cases, or have you pursued any of those?
No, I haven't. It's my life right now is pretty much convincing the English that there never was a serial killer, Jack the Ripper. There was a copycat. And the American public that the Holmes execution and burial was perhaps the greatest escape in the history of true crime. And I'd love to be able to tell those two stories. So that's enough for me, Dave. I haven't, when you get into this stuff, you'll see you're either crazy, which people call me, obsessed, or a passion, and that thing about why no one wants to take my partnership and prove to the world that a 6-inch skeleton cannot be H.H. Holmes. That was 6 inches too short. And you guys can check this out. Go to any doctor you want. Ask them.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that just drive me nuts, and that's enough for me. But I know that the 2 murders you're talking about of the 2 little girls he killed in Canada.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were gruesome. That's probably in a trunk. Cut him up and put him in a trunk. That's probably the worst murders of his life.
Right. You have so many different interpretations. Like people try to say that, he did it with poison, or he killed him with gas, or you don't know, which story do you go by with that? Which one do you most associate with those killings? Like Howard, everybody says that he was poisoned and then Holmes took care of him, obviously. And we know how Peitzel died. But like with the girls, there's a little bit of mystery in there.
It was my understanding they were cut up, and I don't know how he put them to death, but they were chunked up and put in the trunk that the Canadian police found.
Okay, see that, and that's what I thought. I guess I just didn't know that they were chopped up. So,
yeah.
I guess that would be the easiest way to. Didn't he try to burn them as well, like the parts?
I think he had talked about it, but the only one that he burnt was Howard. Okay. As far as I thought. Well, okay, as the kids, the only one that he burnt was Howard, because why did he what is it, a coal stove or a I think it was a coal stove. Oh, because gas isn't good for children.
Like, bodies, yeah.
Oh, that's a line right there.
He was definitely one of a kind. There's no doubt.
That'd be a movie title. Gas isn't good for children, anyways, or a book.
All right, Jeff, we're gonna let you go, bud.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having us or allowing us to have you on here and for setting the record straight, because I think it needs to be set straight.
Guys, this was like sitting at a bar having a beer with a couple of friends. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
That's what we intended.
I was gonna say that is what we like. That's how we want this show to really go. Is just kick back, relax, talk about things. We'll have chatter about this. We'll have chatter about that. As long as everybody's having a good time and making points, I'm cool with it.
Hey, and let's thank Kim. Kim did a great job with some good questions.
Yes.
Thank you,
Kim's
Kim.
Always great.
And real quick before you go, where can they find your book, Bloodstains?
You know, I'm not even selling the print copy anymore. We sold like 20,000 copies, and I gave up on that. You can get it at Amazon on ebook if you want.
Oh, okay. That's probably where I'm gonna have to go then.
It's nice and cheap. I think it's like $2.99 or something. It's pretty cheap.
Okay.
It's still a read that I want to read. So
absolutely.
If one of you guys has a dying need for it one day, I can get you a signed print copy. I've got a few left.
We'll have it as a keepsake for the show.
I will take one for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I will take you up on that.
All right. Send me an address. I'll get you guys a couple books.
All right. Appreciate it, brother. And hey, this year I've been asked about doing another Paracon because, COVID's going away and everything. So if I do, man, you're on my list of speakers. All right.
Oh, I'd love to, as long as you let me talk true crime. But I can do the basement.
Always.
I can do the post office basement where he was whispering in my ear to kill my friend.
Yeah, definitely say that story. Go for it. That's a great. I like that.
We'll just check mark all of the above.
Yeah, literally, just this entire thing that we've been talking about. Just do it.
Just check mark it all. Yep. Check. Yes.
All right, guys. You guys have an excuse for holding your bladder this long. I'm going to be 65 this year. I got to go. So
I don't have an excuse. Alcohol, man. Have a great one, Jeff. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Jeff.
Man, what fantastic. That was great. That was he's a great guy. Man.
I freaking loved having him on. I had him on my old show, Paranormal Frequencies. We talked everything. Like I said, the guy he's just one of the boys.
Oh yeah, I'm so thankful that he cleared so much up too. That was because there's, like he said, there was so much misinterpretation of the H.H. Holmes story.
Well, with the last show, there was some information that you were putting out there, and I was just like kind of biting my tongue because I knew I was going to get Jeff on here. And I didn't say anything.
And I'm glad that he was able to do that, because with getting that information, it's like he said, like different articles, different places pick different sections and roll with it. They do. And that's what it felt like for me. Was I would research the deaths with one person because they described it better. I would research the murder house with another person because they described it better. Like that's just how.
Even like he said with the books that were published years ago, a lot of that information was more or less hearsay. And then like other people that tried to write something about it, they'd pick information out of those books. So there's a lot of disinformation going on. And maybe one day, maybe 2022, we work with Jeff Mudgett on this H.H. Holmes project.
I will literally go to film school just for that.
You don't need film school.
I guess there's YouTube. There's YouTube. I can get on YouTube and just look up how to film on YouTube. Man,
that's all I did. And
you do a great job. So there we go. All right.
Guys, real quick before we jump off here, I do want to let you know that if you were a fan of Haunting History, I have rekindled Season 5 with a new episode that came out, Sunday? 2 days ago? On the not a ghost town. There's 125 people that live there. The town of Avila, which is said to be haunted by shadow figures. If you want to go check that out, I think I did a pretty good job with it. I did rush it a little bit, but it still came out pretty decent. So there's a few more episodes coming. So if you want to go to the Haunting History channel, subscribe and all that good jazz, go check that video out. And yeah. And I was going to say, for those that are watching as well, I do have a film I'm working on. I'm just going to play the teaser. I'm not going to throw the whole pitch out there. But this is something that is coming this year.
It is so horrible, almost hard to imagine. A teenage boy went on a shooting rampage today in rural southern Missouri, killing his family before his uncle finally killed him.
Police found her body still covered up in bed, a bullet wound to her head.
Right now, 7 people are dead. This family is gone. The community is in shock.
There's no one left in this immediate family.
So there you have it.
Good. I can't wait.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Charles.
Dave.
We need to figure out what we're doing for next week.
We do need to figure out what we're doing next week. What are we doing next week, my friend?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, let's see here.
Topic time. If anybody wants to throw a suggestion in the comments, you're more than welcome to.
That's always a fun thing. Yeah. We like suggestions here. We all float here.
We always like suggestions.
I apparently can't find my paper that has my entire list of topics, so that's a problem.
Let me pull something up here. I'm feeling pretty toasty, by the way.
Me too.
I'm loving it. All right. Was that your keg? It sounded like you kicked a big...
It's totally a keg. Totally a keg. Even though I don't drink beer, but it's totally a keg.
Right. Where the hell did I put it?
I don't know. Where'd you put it, man?
I don't know.
The good times of doing a live show.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. I ain't worried about it.
There it is. I got it. Parallel universe and the paranormal. I could sum that up in 15 minutes. What are you talking about? A whole show? Damn.
That would be very interesting.
Here's me summing it up in less than 15 minutes. Pushing clay through a screen door.
Boom. Done.
Done.
No explanation, nothing, just straightforward with that.
That's it.
All right.
Analyze it. Think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we did Men in Black, so that's out.
Because it is, I mean, technically it is another dimension. Yeah, anyways, it's going through another dimension, going through the holes, or the light transforming between holes and giving different projections. But anyways.
Well, I mean, I could go into like Carl Sagan's explanation of the fourth dimension and how we would perceive it. That'd take about another 15, 20 minutes.
So 30-minute show, 30, 40-minute show?
30. Yeah, something like that.
We could do 2 topics, that, and then something else.
All right. I'm deleting stuff we've already done.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
Well, while
we should do something more paranormal.
I was thinking that too, because we did true crime the past 2. Paranormal, I think, is the way to go for this one. So, shall we do... We'll go for it.
I was going to suggest reincarnation. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What were you going to suggest?
Honestly, I think reincarnation's fantastic.
I think it's pretty good.
Because I've always wanted to talk about reincarnation and talk about the many stories of kids and people having these memories and being very accurate, by the way, of certain instances. Yes, I would love to do that.
And I can tell you all about my reading that I got at one of these Paracons where somebody did my past life regression.
I need to do that. I feel like I've had past life visions, but I've never had someone else try to help explain things.
I'll just say this: I was repeatedly murdered.
Do you have any? Is your birthmark on any of the spots that how you were murdered?
I will reveal that in next week's episode.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
I do have a birthmark, by the way, so I will reveal where and what it signifies.
Okay. So I'm glad I mentioned it. Mine's
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that later.
All right. Well, thank everybody for joining us. We appreciate y'all. If you haven't yet, subscribe and like this video and hit the bell for notifications, because every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. we right here. And anything else, Charles?
I'm solid, my friend. I feel like this is a great show. Thank you to everybody for showing up. We really do appreciate it. And I thank Jeff for being here. He was a great sport and explaining everything and setting it straight. Here's to the next one.
Big shout out to Jeff.
Yes, 100%.
New documentary, 2022.